Hello and welcome. This is James Blanchard, Cisneros at your service. Today I will be reading the March 5th Facebook post and making a few comments on it, and I trust it will assist both of us on our journeys. Here we go. Anger as an illusionary program response. We have for so long been subjected to the ego's programming that certain illusions now seem like natural responses. Let us remember that a true natural response brings us peace. A program response brings us a lack of peace. For example, we have been taught to believe that anger is a natural response. Yet how many times have we supported it as a natural expression, only to later become so sick of its effects on our lives that we finally forgave it and let it go in order to return to some level of internal balance and peace. And yet still, how much anger and resentment do we still continue to hold on to out of some warped sense of righteousness, false power, and control? Today, let us stop sacrificing our time and energy to the false idol of anger, and instead practice returning to our natural state, the state of peace. As you probably hear, there's some hammering going on. But we will not be angered today. And we will not become angry at that person. At God's creation. Okay. Anger. Program response. Let us remember who in truth we are. We are God's expression. We are God's extension, and God is love, and God is all. And therefore, the truth within us, our true essence, is love, and only love. And if all of us is love, then there cannot be an opposite to love. The illusionary believes of such things as anger, resentment, jealousy. All those things are created by the ego to protect its thought system as real. And so we are born into a world of duality where the ego reigns as king in most cases. And as we are young, as we're growing up within our families, we're taught a certain way. And when we're out of that certain way, we're punished as being bad or what have you. And when we are doing things exactly as our family wants, then we're rewarded as good or giving gifts or whatever, what have you. Equally so with our friends and peers. If we do things a certain way, very limited way, then we are rewarded for that behavior. If we go apart from that belief system of our peers, then we're punished for that behavior by taking their friendship away, or what have you. Equally so with society. Each society has certain rules that it asks you to follow. And if you don't follow that specific road, then you're punished, put in jail, what have you, or not rewarded or patted on the back. But if you follow a certain road, then you're rewarded and given more money, etc. And so the ego throughout our lifetime is developing its thought system where there are things, certain ways we can do things, and certain ways we, quote unquote, shouldn't do things. But, we all have different families, different friends, different societies. And so a lot of times we are punished by others through judgment, through condemnation, because we don't fit into their narrow path. And so we live day to day in our created narrow path that was basically shaped by our family, friends, peers, society. And we live in that very narrow path, and we have to defend this path against the other 7 billion thought systems out there, ego-created thought systems. And so whenever something's not happening in the way that our path says that it should happen, then we use the ego's tools to defend this path. And some of its tools are anger, resentment, jealousy, hatred, fear, anxiety, stress. And so all those are tools used by the ego to protect its path, because the ego has invested a lot of time and energy on us, and has created the ego around us as a wall around us. And so we actually defend this wall, because we think that if we're defending this wall, then we're safe, and we will not be punished or condemned or judged. And none of us really want to be judged, condemned, because somewhere within us that doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like it's a true part of us to use judgment and condemnation. So we're being judged and condemned every day, and then we're judging and condemning others every day. But somewhere within that thought system, we start to realize how useless judgment and condemnation of others is. And so you start to question your path, your family's path, your friend's path, your society's path, every time that you have to use judgment to defend it. And the more you use judgment, condemnation on others, because we in truth are all one. See, the ego wants us to believe we have different paths, 7 billion different paths, 7 billion different egos, so we're attacking each other all the time. And so when we attack each other, then we're not safe. But how could we be a part of God if we're not safe? And that's what the ego wants us to believe, that we're not really a part of God, that we're a part of it, the ego. Because if we were a part of God, then we would have no need for the defense, because we would be only love, and our brothers and sisters would be only love. But when we're defending ourselves, our paths, against other people's belief systems, against other people's judgments, condemnations, and we're judging them and condemning them, then obviously we're not one. We're not part of God in our minds. We cannot be part of God, because if God is only love, but we're hatred and anger and resentment, then obviously we cannot be one with God. And so we feel unsafe, and so we start defending more our thought system, the ego's thought system. And we keep on defending the thought system over and over and over again, until these ego tools, which we don't really feel comfortable with, they become habits. And so anger itself becomes a habit, simply because we use it over and over and over again, and we've been taught by our friends, our peers, our society, that it's okay to be angry, that it's okay to be angered at somebody else, condemn other people, if they're not following what you believe to be true or real. So it's okay to defend yourself in that manner, by condemning others, because you're separate from them according to the ego. So if you're separate from them, when you condemn and judge them, that condemnation and judgment does not hurt you. It only hurts them. But the more you do it, the more you play in the ego's fairy tale, the more you see that when you judge and condemn them, you're hurting yourself. You don't feel right. You don't feel at peace with yourself. You don't feel like condemnation, anger, resentment, jealousy, you don't feel like that's part of your true essence, because in truth it's not, because in truth you are only love. And therefore, when we keep on playing the ego's games, when we keep on using the ego's tools to defend this very narrow thought system that we believe is true, then we just start feeling heavier and heavier and carry more and more of the burden, because we have used so much anger and resentment and jealousy and hatred towards others. And we can only carry that stuff for so long before we start feeling burdened by this illusion that we have been taught to believe is real, that we have been taught to believe is a part of our true essence. But you start to realize that this is just a virus that you're carrying with you. This is some weight that does not in truth belong to you, because you are not anger and hatred and judgment. You are not those things. You are not anger. Anger is a programmed idol that we have simply used over and over again to defend the ego's thought system. And we've used it for so long that we now believe it's a natural response, but it is not. It is a programmed response. The only natural response to your brothers and sisters is love. And its expressions, love's expressions, like kindness, forgiveness, generosity, peace, joy. That's your natural response. Those are your natural responses. Anything that brings you peace is your natural response. When you're not at peace, there's a pretty good it's a pretty good idea that you're using the ego's program response to react to others or even to yourself. And so you use the ego's games, you use the ego's tools, you judge and condemn your brothers and sisters, and then you feel guilty, and your conscience begins to hurt because of the way you're acting towards your brothers and sisters, the way you're acting towards them. And then you feel guilt for this. And you start to wonder, why am I feeling guilty? Why is my conscience hurting if I'm doing everything the ego taught me to do, that it's right, that I have every right to be angry, that I have every right to judgment? Why, if it's right, why am I feeling guilty? Why is my conscience hurting? Why am I feeling burdened by my own actions? Why am I hurting myself through my own actions? And the more you start to feel what it is you're doing to others and to yourself through your actions of others, because we are all one, and so when we judge and condemn them, that energy has to flow through us. So we're judging and condemning them according to the ego, but we're hurting ourselves in truth, because we're all one. And so instead of judging, we start to see that instead of, when we use judgment and resentment, we don't feel good. When we condemn others, we don't feel good. We don't feel at peace. We don't feel joyous. And our natural state is to be at peace, is to be joyous. And so we start to figure out other ways we can deal with the situations with our brothers and sisters and even with ourselves without judging them, without feeling guilty ourselves. And that's just part of our growing process. And so the ego wants you to feel guilty for condemning others, which is something that the ego taught you to do to defend your thought system. But its solution only creates more confusion for you. And so you start to let go of those ideas because they're not helping you find peace and joy, which is your true essence, which is where you truly belong, which is where you feel at peace in. And so we start to let that go. We start to let those very narrow pathways go, and we start to open them up. And we start to allow our brothers and sisters to experience their journey as they think they need to. Because that's what we would want. We want to experience our life in the way that we believe that we think we need to in order to grow and develop into greater alignment with the true essence within us, which is love, which is God. That is where all the rivers end up in, towards God, towards a true essence. That's where we all want to go. That's where we naturally flow to. Obviously, we can hold ourselves onto the edges of the riverbank. We can hold ourselves with rocks and stop our flow towards God, towards our true essence. But that's just simply a choice. And so today, let us not, whenever we're using anger, let us not judge ourselves as bad or not good enough or not spiritual enough for using anger. Let us simply stop and remember and feel that this anger that I'm using towards others or myself, it doesn't feel right. I don't feel connected to my true essence when I'm using this feeling, emotion, energy. So why am I using this feeling, emotion, and energy if it's only hurting me, even though the ego taught me that I should use it to save me? And so we say, okay, I'm using the ego's tools because I was taught to use them, but I don't feel right using them any longer. And I don't feel right when I feel guilty about using them. And I know that my true essence is peace, so I'm going to use peace now as my tool. I'm going to use forgiveness, compassion as my tools, because that brings me in alignment with my true essence. And so I'm not going to judge myself for being angry at others or myself now. I'm going to actually offer my feelings gratitude, because they're showing me where I don't belong. Anger is showing me that I do not want to use it in my life. I want to use forgiveness. I want to use compassion. I want to use peace, because that's what feels right. And so if we use anger today, that's fine. But let us just pay attention to what we're doing to others and ourselves. Let us not use it simply because we've been taught to use it as the right tool for X or Y reason, because person X or Y is not doing exactly like we have been taught. or thinking exactly how we have been taught to think. And so when you start freeing other people from your judgments and condemnation, from your anger, then you start to free yourself from those energies. Because if you're losing less condemnation and anger and resentment and jealousy, then you start seeing how unnecessary they are really to your experience, to your life experience, to you having peace. And now that you are more aligned with your true essence, now you don't judge yourself for using the ego's tools. Now you thank the ego's tools for showing you that it is there that where you do not belong. You do not belong in a world that uses anger, condemnation, resentment, jealousy to interact with your brothers and sisters, because all you're doing is hurting yourself as you hurt them. So when you're using your true essence, when you're using love, forgiveness, compassion, kindness, joy, when you're choosing to use those tools, which is simply the expressions of love, then you feel much safer in this world. Because you start to realize that these energies are the only thing that is really true about you. And because we're all one, that's the only thing that is really true about everybody else. And so you start to realize that your journey is indeed sacred. You have come here to express a sacred journey. You have come here to release the ego's tools and show the world that the ego's tools are no longer needed. There's no longer a need for anger. There's no longer a need for revenge, for hatred, for fear, for anxiety, for stress. There's no longer need for those tools, because we have all used those tools long enough and we have found them very, very lacking. And the more we use them, the more we see how little they offer. And so today, let us simply acknowledge that our journey is sacred. And when we experience anger, that's okay. That's just part of our experience. We're experiencing anger over and over again until we realize that we do not need it. And so we stop condemning our brothers and sisters for making us feel angry. Because we get that when somebody makes us feel angry, we get to experience that this anger is not a real part of us. And so we thank our brothers and sisters for helping us see that anger is not a real part of us. So we start using gratitude towards our brothers and sisters for helping us see the illusions of the ego as the illusions that they are. And so your only response to your brothers and sisters once you align with your true essence is love, is forgiveness, is compassion, is the allowing of their journey to be exactly as they think they must walk it. And when you free them, because we're all one, you free yourself. And so there's no need to feel guilt or shame for experiencing the ego's tools. Because the ego's tools, by us experiencing them, are simply self-destructing, because they're showing us who we are not. And the more we realize who we are not, the more we start to realize who we truly are. And so let us thank our negative emotions. Let us thank everything and everyone the ego would have had us condemn. There's no more need for condemnation. All you need is gratitude. Thank you for helping me see that condemnation and anger and resentment and jealousy are not real. Thank you. Gratitude produces peace, because gratitude and peace are extensions and expressions of love. And that is your natural state, the state of love. Anger is just a programmed response, just like every other response, every other tool that the ego uses. It's just a programmed response. It's not a part of your true essence. Your true essence is love and only love. That is your true essence. And so let us be grateful that little by little we're realizing what our true essence is. And little by little we're releasing the ego's tools and becoming an example that the ego's tools in this world are no longer needed. And when people see your example, when people see your peace, they will naturally be drawn to that, because that peace is the truth in them also. And as we said before in this video, we naturally flow towards God, towards peace, towards love. And so when you're being an example of peace, of love, of God, people will be naturally drawn to you. Yes, other egos will try to attack you also, but you know that's their attack is simply an illusion. And so once those attacks were huge rocks that were thrown against your sand wall, now you see them as little pebbles thrown against your stone wall, against the truth, against your true essence. A little pebble. No matter how the ego pictures it, it's an illusion. It's not real. And the more you remember your true essence, the more you see how unreal those attacks are. There's no need to judge or condemn people who attack you simply because they're asleep, simply because they don't know who they truly are. They don't remember who they truly are. So when you see a little child playing a little fantasy game in the park, you don't judge that child. You just allow that child to play his game, his or her game. Equally so with your brothers and sisters, with your friends, your family, your peers, your society. Allow them to play their game. Let them judge you. Let them condemn you. It's only an illusion they're using on you. And illusions cannot in any way hurt your true essence. For your true essence is eternal. You are God's expression. You are God's eternal expression manifested here on earth to remind your brothers and sisters that they too are that. Okay. This video might have been a little long. But that's okay. I'm not angry at myself. It's exactly the amount of time that I needed to be. And if you're still here, hey, thank you very much. And if you're not, hey, thank you very much too. Thank you very much for your time. I love you very much. If you'd be so kind as to like, comment, or share the video, it would help with the listening process, and it might help somebody who can use this information find it someday. If you can leave me a comment or a question, I will be delighted to try and offer a response. And if you can please subscribe to my YouTube videos, Google+, Twitter, Facebook. I would love to have you in those communities. Again, thank you for your time. I love you very much. And God willing, we will see each other tomorrow. Peace.